At some point, when I was very small, no older than 5, my dad told me that his middle name was Delicious. Is it really? I asked. Yes, he responded, without even a flicker of hesitation. Paul John Delicious Cipro. I carried this with me as fact until 3rd grade, when a family tree project exposed the fraud. I confidently began writing Delicious across the white poster board when my mom intervened to inform me that Delicious was not, in fact, his government-recognized middle name. That was probably my earliest introduction to Paul's humor. Perfectly straight-faced, entirely committed, and just mischievous enough to alter the fabric of reality for years at a time. And as it turns out, the straight-faced commitment wasn't reserved for punchlines alone. The first time my mom left him home alone with me, she returned less than an hour later to find Paul standing in the driveway by himself, looking like he'd just survived a small but meaningful natural disaster. "Where's Carly?" she asked. He shook his head. "She's inside. I can't be in there with her." To which my mom responded very calmly, "She's 4. I think most people would have taken that incident as useful information and left, but he didn't. He went back inside, and I tested him for years after that. I raised my voice, I pushed boundaries, I made sure he knew exactly what he was signing up for. But he never matched my volume. He didn't escalate or punish, he just stayed. And at some point, I'm not even sure when it happened, I stopped feeling like I needed to test whether he would. When someone refuses to leave, even when you make staying hard, you eventually stop bracing for the exit. In quantum mechanics, the act of observing a system changes it. You can't measure a particle without disturbing it, can't look at something closely without altering its trajectory. My dad had a way of doing that, of shifting things quietly, of altering the atmosphere without ever making it feel heavy. He looked closely at the people he cared about, and when someone that steady looks closely at you, you change a little too. You stand a little straighter maybe, start to feel a little more durable, more formidable. The clearest example of that was in the way he loved my mom. My parents were each other's best friend. They did almost everything together, errands, road trips, grandkids' birthday parties, brief and enthusiastic experiments with hobbies like pickleball and snowshoeing. The only thing my mom never quite signed up for was golf, which feels, in retrospect, like a perfectly reasonable boundary. My dad handled the messy details of life without ever making a show of it. Bills were paid ahead of time, cars were maintained, problems were solved before we even knew they existed. To this day, my mom's and my understanding of tax season amounts to, remember to give Paul your W-2. My mom and I have always moved through the world with a sort of everything will probably work out mentality. What we didn't always recognize is that it worked out because my dad was quietly making sure that it would. And while my dad studied the world around us, my mom studied him within it. She reminded him to eat the occasional vegetable, to wear sunscreen in July, to retire the Madras shorts he bought at Old Navy in 1992, and the t-shirts that were generously 2 sizes too large. That was how they moved through the world, side by side, each adjusting the other in small but meaningful ways, their lives interlocked and load-bearing. And between them, there was a joy that pulled the rest of us into its orbit. For years, no matter where I was going or what I was doing, my dad's parting words to me were always the same. Make a basket. Applicability and context were never a factor. It didn't matter if I was heading into a college class, a job interview, or a dentist appointment. It was always the same. Make a basket. To be clear, this was not strategic advice. It was not philosophical shorthand about taking the shot or moving forward with confidence. He meant it literally, as if I were about to sub into a basketball game, and he just thought that was funny. It used to make me laugh or roll my eyes or both, depending on the day. But the thing about it was, and though I never would have admitted this as a teenager, whenever he said it, I'd walk out the door or hang up the phone feeling a little less nervous than I had just seconds before. When I don't know how to hold something, my impulse is to look for the rules that govern it. In this case, I have found it helpful to remember that matter rearranges, structures loosen. Nothing ever vanishes, it just changes state. The atoms that became my dad traveled impossible distances across millions of years before assembling briefly and precisely into the configuration that was him. They will continue to disperse and rearrange, even as we remain here, still calling him ours. I find it statistically obscene that those particles will never gather in quite the same way again. And yet, against every imaginable set of odds, he was here once, and my brief interval of consciousness just so happened to overlap with his. If there's any comfort in that, though, it is strictly mathematical, and it doesn't do anything to change the fact that I still wish I could call him. My dad isn't here to steady me through all of this now, which feels particularly unfair and almost comically inconvenient, because this is the hardest thing I have ever done. And it is so much heavier than anything I have tried to carry before. But if he were standing next to me now, seeing that I'm scared, seeing that this all feels so impossibly heavy, I think I know exactly what he would say. This moment would be no exception. Make a basket.